One of the biggest things we're going to be talking about today is Bitcoin and its future, especially of whether or not it can make an all-time high in September. We'll give you some reasons why we think that might happen today on the show. And of course, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Coinbase. If you're brand new to crypto, and even if you're not, one of the things you can do if you don't have a Coinbase account right now is jump over to Coinbase.com. Use our link down below. It's going to give you a $200 reward in crypto just by signing up. So click our link right now and use that to get started with your own centralized exchange over on Coinbase. Future of money is here. One of the most safest, I think, places to go. So check it out, see what you guys think. I want to jump to a couple of news items here for the week. Right here, of course, is Genevieve talking about what's up for the week right now. We get a couple things. The S&P 500 just had its best week. Up 3.9, Dow was up 3.9, NASDAQ soared to 5.2, so nice week. All eyes are on the Fed meeting in Jackson Hole, which is leading up to Friday. Also, the rate cut odds for September right now hovering around 73%, which is pretty significant. Cutting rates with stocks near record highs, that's a very interesting thing, but could happen. I don't know. We're still in a position right now where the Fed might take a look at some of the jobs reports and the fact that we haven't seen a major slice in disinflation continuing to occur. Could it be a scenario where we get another pause? And if that were to happen, I think the markets would respond pretty violently. I do want to go to a clip because there's a couple of things that are happening right now in essence of what could go on at Jackson Hole. Here is an analyst breaking it down for you. Take a look.
You know, Powell is just exceptional at that very balance. He usually uses his Jackson Hole speech to zoom out a bit and give a really high level forecast for where the economy is headed and a pretty sharp diagnosis of the Fed's inflation fight. The challenge this year is going to be to not only recap all of that progress, but give as clear a signal as he's willing to give on what we're going to expect in September.
Why do you think there's such pressure on the Fed right now about cutting rates? Is it simply because we've seen them high for this long?
I think there are a few things going on. As you said, rates are still very high, and they've remained high even when we're starting to see other parts of the economy slow down. So you'll hear Fed officials talk about this growing risk between keeping rates too high for too long and having that come with other consequences, that you start to see the economy cooling in areas that have been able to stay very strong. So as you have inflation cooling and reliably cooling closer to the Fed's target, you're starting to see the job market slow. There are concerns that eventually consumers will yank back. The trick is that we're not really seeing that in extreme terms yet. We're not in a recession. It doesn't look like we're headed for one. But when those things tend to get a little bit more serious, it can happen very quickly.
I think that's the key right there is her last statement. If we get into a sideways position, it can go wrong very quickly. And I think that's the concern right now that everybody has is, have we overpressed it? And has the Fed maybe just held on too long here? Because remember, if they have to act reactionary, that could be one of the worst things for the S&P 500. Granted, the S&P flying, gold at an all-time high. And of course, even Bitcoin still holding a significant lead over its year to date. So I think we're still in a position right now to be looking at this very cautiously. If you look at Goldman Sachs, they're saying that the U.S. recession probability is down to 20%. I'm still feeling that we are in a little bit tighter position overall. And of course, part of this, I think, is going to be coming out in the jobs numbers. And that's the real concern. Even if they were to cut, if the jobs numbers come in very soft, that may be a little too late for what could happen in the coming months. Goldman Sachs tweaked its outlook, though, saying 20% is year from 25 down to 20 in terms of probability. If the August jobs report, this gets back to my point right here, is set to drop on September 6th, doesn't disappoint, they might cut the potential for a recession even further. This is the date that I think you guys all need to put on your calendar, and that, of course, is September 6th. This is when the jobs data comes in. This will be the one piece of data that I think will hit the market much harder. Now, many people are looking at where could Bitcoin go from here, and I think a lot of it is going to depend on politically what's going on. And of course, if you look at the current political tracking, this is over on our political tracker, Donald Trump right there, he slid quite a bit when Kamala Harris came into the race. He had been sliding, but here recently has started to pick up a little bit of steam since around the 13th of August, with the Harris campaign starting to lose steam primarily because of their lack of actually addressing the crypto market. And of course, you have RFK, which has been falling off dramatically in huge fashion. You know, I know that he has been struggling with the crypto crowd. Even in the most recent, he actually went over to the Cardano conference. So I think it's just a scenario where maybe he's just not getting in on the right people. By the way, if you haven't liked and subscribed to our videos, make sure and do that right now. Just smash the like button right now. It's just one little step going forward. And if you're not in our Diamond Circle, that is our best place to get additional content, more podcasts, stuff I do that only goes out to the Diamond Circle. All you have to do is click the link down below to join that. Very easy. Let's jump over to Bitcoin real quick. Institutional investors flood Bitcoin ETFs Q2. This, of course, is what we've been seeing, and I think a lot of people are wondering whether or not this can hold up for the rest of the year. A lot of points within the article that I think are interesting. One that I wanted to focus in on was a couple right here, highlights of the 13F filings. Institutional ownership of these ETFs grew from 21.4 to 24%. Hedge funds holdings in these ETFs decreased a little bit from 37 to 30. And then Goldman came in and said, hey, wait a minute, we've got 412 million in holdings right now, and Morgan Stanley holding 188. So pretty significant numbers overall. And I think this is the question when you look at the ETFs in general. Are you seeing more retail? Because this is something that even myself has started to see many people that I know, colleagues and industry types, that are saying, I want exposure, but I want to do it in somewhere that I'm comfortable with, usually in my exchange account or in my brokerage account. And I think that's the big difference right now that's rolling into the ETFs. Will this hold for the next few months? And we see, especially if we see an all-time high coming in September, that'll be interesting to watch. But right now, Ethereum ETFs are struggling a little bit. Since their launch, they've recorded negative total inflows, primarily due to the Grayscale ETH Trust bleeding out cash. And it's a similar story for the Bitcoin ETFs, except for ETH, there isn't enough demand to compensate for the Grayscale drag. That's the problem that we've been watching. So we'll see how this plays out, because of course, even though ETH has been holding its own, around 26. So we'll see if this one continues to track along with Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin analysts converge on a breakout in September and are talking about an 86K possibility. A couple of points that they hit on. Bitcoin tends to break out to the parabolic phase in the cycle about 160 days after the halving. If that repeats itself, Bitcoin could just be over a month away from a breakout. So if that were the time, then we may be nearing, if those cycles stay true, into a very interesting time for Bitcoin. Let me know what you guys think. Drop some comments down below if you think we're going to see a green September or not, because I think this is the one to watch for sure. Other things I want to hit on right here, of course, is Eleanor Terrett. Dems have officially released their party platform on day one of the DNC. No mention of blockchain technology. This is happening right now. Bitcoin, digital assets, or anything related to crypto. And again, we're just reaching out to Wiley Nickel right there, one of the lead Dems that is trying to position at least a positive spin on this. Hopefully this gets some kind of statement during the DNC this week. If it doesn't, this could be a very interesting situation brewing, because we may see a slide off in Polymarket predictions, even though we saw that this weekend where we saw Trump rise almost 4%, Kamala Harris dropped 4%. We'll see if that continues to kind of go back and forth on this, especially as Harris starts to release their policy situation. Other things that are happening right here, by comparison, there's the GOP party platform that is a specific section dedicated to championing innovation. And of course, that includes crypto, AI, and even space travel. But this is the thing that is really the difference, which is why I believe that we continue to see the Republicans be the championing force for crypto voters. Remember, there's 32 million right now that we know of that are crypto interested and willing to vote. And I think that's out of the 90 plus million that we have in the United States that are either have held it or currently hold crypto. This is a huge voting block that I just don't understand why the Harris campaign has been able to jump in. I want to go to a clip real quick because this clip will get into, remember when Harris was asked to come, I believe, to the Bitcoin conference and how that all played out? Because that was really when we started to see Trump's position on crypto unfold. Take a look at this clip.
How close was Kamala actually coming to speaking at Bitcoin 2024? How real was that?
Real, but I can't describe it as close because, we never talked to her directly ourselves. And there was a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of different people, I think, in her orbit, and the power structure of that orbit is not clear. Like, it's not clear who's the shot caller and who's not. But at the same time, what we don't want to do is have someone come in and deceive our industry about their support and, be actively fucking over our industry and then pretend that that's not the case and mea culpa and use that as a platform to take away momentum from her political competitor when, what we need is we need this to be a decisive election for this issue to become a bipartisan. And if we allow it to get muddied with someone making kind of false claims of support when they're actively running the administration, I mean, she's in charge.
What's your take on that, David? Do you think we have to pick a side?
No, we're not picking a side. We're single issue voters. I mean, that's the thing. We're single issue voters. That's what we care about. And if one side wants to cater to our single issue, then they're going to win our votes. It's that simple.
So you get to it right there, guys. I mean, we were talking about 30 plus million single issue voters, or at least top issue voters, being digital assets. That, of course, was David Bailey, who is the organizer of the Bitcoin conference where Trump announced his strategic reserve. You had, RFK there. The key is you had a lot of people talking about digital assets, Bitcoin, crypto in general, in a very positive light. And I would say by now, at this point, at the very least, I think from the Democrats, whatever they represent or present will be somewhat specious, I think. I don't know if we can trust anything coming out of that camp right now. But hey, listen, there was an opportunity, and I think they've missed it. Now, is it too late? No, it's never too late. But the fact that we've got so much happening in D.C. around this that has been such a struggle from the existing administration, I don't know. I don't know that they're really interested in crypto or digital assets at all, nor do I think that they even care that there's 30 plus million voters that are interested in this. So that in itself is a problem. Looking at Polymarket, of course, Trump took a lift and then he has retraced slightly, still tracking slightly under the Harris campaign. You can kind of see this little move right here. I'll zoom in on this section right here. This was the bump right here that happened over the weekend that was pretty significant, where you saw the drop and the lift. And of course, that all came mainly on the announcement of many policies that the Harris campaign started to reveal, many of which were questionable. I'll just leave them with that. We won't go into a lot of detail on that. But you can kind of see this is getting to be a very tight race. Whether Polymarket is correct, and I think at the very last minute, we will see Polymarket start to reveal a lot of things, much like what we saw in the VP probability as well. And of course, I want to go to this last clip. This is Jay Clayton talking about what could happen if we did see a GOP White House. Take a look.
If we continue to be tech leaders, when we're tech leaders, we get the benefit of growth around the globe. We only have 360 million people. There's 8 billion people in the world. When they get hooked in to a digital economy, we all benefit greatly. Capital allocation. We're better at allocating capital than anybody else in the world. 4% of the world population, we allocate over 50% of the world's government. Focus on those things and competence in government. That's how you get real growth. That's how you get real wage growth for the people in the middle 80% of the economy. Yeah. This idea that you're going to go out and sort of say some prices are good and some prices are bad, right, it's lunacy.
If you could unequivocally say Donald Trump would be 180 degrees from Lena Khan in the Biden administration on antitrust, that might be something you could sell. But you can't say that. You don't know what his antitrust stance would be. And J.D. Vance or some people that say he's said friendly things about Lena Khan.
I think it's pretty clear that if you go back to 2016 to 2020, the approach to merger regulation in the U.S. was more pro-growth than it is today.
Yeah, I think that is the point. You just have to look at the past administration and what their performance was. And everybody, to at least a lot of the research that we've done and seen, is that it is still, people remember pre-COVID. They remember what was going on in the country under that administration. I think this is the real question mark, because if you don't have that occur, what would the United States look like? Taking a quick look at the Bitcoin chart right now, of course, sentiment overall is starting to trend slightly up as Bitcoin's getting a green candle today, covering off that 50. Was nice around 57.9, holding what we see right now here at about 59.3. If we see that continue to hold, Ethereum holding in around the 2600 after a dip over the weekend, and now retracing a little bit, but still showing a little bit of a negative sentiment overall. We're going to continue to track this week. We'll keep a close eye on what's happening in Jackson Hole. We'll give you guys an analysis as well this week on some of the additional projects that we're tracking, from a channel standpoint. Obviously, if you're not following me out there on X, make sure and do that. It's a great place to catch other things that I'm talking about and doing. And of course, we'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.